Hello, this is Luke Steele, and you're hanging out with Rob on Front Row Live.
I'm super excited about this debut solo record that you just dropped because it's something different. It's a different. I feel like you just came into the studio with a different vibe, a different kind of energy when you jumped in and started creating this record. Talk to me a little bit about, like, as we dive into it, like, what initially kickstarted that writing process for you? Like, did you come into the studio knowing you were working on a debut album?
Frustration, confusion. No, I think being so heavy on collaboration the last, 15 years, there's things that I've always done, production-wise and songwriting-wise that was time to be unraveled, and I think, it got to that point in my life where it was like, I've got to leave the homestead, so to speak, and stand on my own and do that. And that was real therapeutic, being able to, reverse a pedal steel or, make things sound the way I want and to my exact, liking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the fact that it's a different kind of vocal tone as well. It's not the vocal tone that I'm used to listening to when I'm listening to your music. Like, you went a little lower on the singing that you did with this record. Was that a conscious decision for you, or is that just like something that just kind of naturally happened because this is the vibe that these songs that you were writing kind of gave you?
Yeah, well, that's always the way I sing, with the guitar, and it's light, and when I write songs at night, and I think with bands like Empire, it was always going the opposite, trying to go as high and as power, and I'm not really a singer. I can't sing myself out of a panic room. It's kind of so. I like that it was light, and I can get more character when it's lighter. It can be, all of the takes were pretty much the first take, which was great.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm getting older, so I don't have the energy to sing in this, mega tight pant falsetto, 3 ranges above my normal voice, So, yeah, it's good.
But at the same time, like, I feel like that lower range is also harder to control, especially when you're talking about a topic that's more vulnerable to you, more personal. Like, is that something that you felt was going on in the recording process?
Yeah, it became like I like how it's so light, because it's like I'm telling you stories. So sometimes it's barely singing, it's sort of,
Spoken word in a sense.
yeah, spoken word with a slight bit of melody, and that's what I kind of wanted. The couple of records I did before, like I did a new project called H3000, and I had I have another band with Daniel Johns called Dreams, and these records were well received, but they didn't connect to people where people go, I love that song. I think music now, it's kind of like it's like the wind, it passes by, and so I wanted something that was closer and closer so people couldn't escape but hear the whisper of steel in the night. Yeah.
And it's interesting because, like, I feel like the sonically, the instrumentation, I feel like I don't know, I feel like it was very, like, grassroots in a sense. Like, you just created sounds out of nothing. You used whatever was around you to kind of create these, like, atmospheric sounds, or like these tones that we kind of get on this record. What was that recording process like, as far as, like, creating these soundscapes that we kind of hear on this record?
Well, I tried to limit myself to the guitar, the vocal, percussion, and the pedal steel. That was it, and I think I work good like that. I'm kind of become like Bear Grylls, It's like, here's a beer can, a piece of sushi, and a bit of string. Now climb down this mountain, I'm a bit like that, where I have too many things. I get lost in what's the nucleus of, the backbone of it. So it had to start with me on the guitar, and obviously be a great song to start with. And when I was in Nashville doing a writing trip, I met Dan Dugmore, which was a 72-year-old pedal steel player, He's played with James Taylor, Linda Ronstadt, and he just became the, the heritage icing, on the top. And Brian Kilgore, who's, one of the world's greatest percussionists, is also an older cat. So it was a real simple little band, And I think, it's funny. People say, "Why did it take 20 years to find that?" But it's the right time to do it, and I'm older now to understand the elements,
Yeah. I always love like when artists are, have had such incredible careers with either one or two projects, and then they still go and turn around and do something solo, something different, something that we didn't like think would be there. But how does that kind of like, do you feel like when you finally sat down and started working on this solo record, do you feel like all your years in this music industry like kind of led up to this album? Like, do you feel like you've been working your way to what you kind of created right now?
I think so, yeah. And I think a lot of the experiences as well to actually write the songs that mean something. It's like since I've been 20, I've had managers steal hundreds of thousands, band members sue me, nearly dying in plane crashes, to selling out the Holy of the Bowl, to traveling the world. There's all these things that fall into this melting pot, which gives you the wisdom to write the song. So yeah, and that's what's so great. It's kind of like what Spielberg says: every year you're a different person. So it's kind of every year I'm grabbing a new lesson. So yeah, one of many. Just the start of this. It's like that feeling, when you first leave home and you're trying to pay the rent and whatever, and then you get into a flow. So yeah, it's exciting.
I feel like that the the title of the album, "Listen to the Water." I feel like that's like, I don't know, the way that I kind of portrayed it was like you listening to your inner self. Like this is what you've been wanting to kind of voice out and talk about. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Like I've said a few times, it sort of became a record of personal therapy session with God, in recordings. It was yeah, there's so many things to try and work out, especially being in America, with everything that was going on from the last president to, to the guns and the kidnappings, and all of that filters some way and then ends up in your mind and your heart, like kind of bubbling away, and then you can talk to people forever, really. You can just keep talking about it, but sometimes the best way is to write a song, Kind of like some people write a letter and then they post it or burn it, whatever. But I enjoyed that. You could just put down these therapy sessions. Yeah.
What was that writing process for you during the creation of this record? Like, did you know like these 14 tracks were already going to be what they are, or is that again, it's something that just kind of like as you started writing that first one, the next one kind of revealed itself, and the next one, and so on?
Yeah, it was like, God was giving me these breadcrumbs of songs. You'd finish one and then you'd turn the corner and there's a guy standing with next song on his shirt, and I grabbed that. And I love that, every musician knows that feeling, and that's what you search for, is the flow, the even flow. And the opposite of that is not a flow where bash your head against the wall for 2 years. But yeah, that was great, getting songs and then cutting the vocal and cutting each song in 2 days, basically.
Wow.
And then coming back and just fine tuning. But I love that. If it could only ever always be that easy, because yeah. But yeah, that's what you search for,
Yeah. So you felt like this record was a lot easier than when you're working with a team and a producer and everything else, everyone else that's also involved?
Yeah.
You would think it'd be harder because you're like in your head about it.
Yeah, what's funny, like, I'm so particular with certain things, and everyone has their own magical nuances they do, you know, and I do certain things a certain way where the more people you work with, the more that there's like different connections happening, and there is compromise with against the pure thought that you have, and it's great. Sometimes it can, when it all works together, it's great, but when, you know, there's too many emotions, it's what's a good analogy here? You know, it's like you're in the schoolyard or something, you know, it's just, or you paint the wall and it just keeps redrawing a different color, you know, it's just impossible. I hate that.
Yeah.
So, and I think when you get older, you just don't want to deal with it. Not that I'm 150 years old, but I love collaborating because it's, you know, if you have that mindset, like a kingdom mindset, every person, situation becomes your teacher. Mm-hmm. But then there becomes a point in your life where you're not a student anymore. And I think I've graduated. Yeah. You know.
And it's crazy that it's now the moment where you feel like you're no longer a student. You know, from looking from the outside in, seeing like the accolades and the performances and the songs that you've created in the past, like you would think that haven't been a student in a long time. But can you elaborate a little bit more on that? Like, what is it that made you feel like now it's the time?
I think you know, when the hit and we left and we went to we bought this cabin in the woods, and yeah, I sort of had to deal with, in the first 2 weeks there was like 3 giant bears, and then there were scorpions, and it was you know, that really kind of came into the songwriting, having to sort of grow up and
life hit.
Yeah, pretty much. And I think hitting 40, you know, for me felt like I don't know, it just really reflected on, you know, it was like you could see the timeline, you could look back and you could kind of go, well, this is probably the halfway point, you know, and I haven't even really left home yet, in a way. So that was, yeah, people say that about age, but I think there's certain memorials of ages where you go, you've got to kind of grow up, and yeah. So age, and I think just getting frustrated about not being able to do anything with what's happening in the world, you know. So I think my gift is music, so I've just got to, you know, put it down in song, really.
As far as like that growth goes, like how do you feel that your songwriting has kind of evolved with this record alone?
I think I'm starting to just get really back to, I feel like I'm getting back to when I was in art school, you know, when I'd write songs, they had, I don't know, just it was more of me, you know. I think how they say, like, just be you, it's the hardest thing to do. Yeah. I think as life goes on, things get, you know, stuck to you, you know, other people's, you know, you end up with habits of in the studio or doing this and that, and I love that, coming back to just the guitar when I'd just, you know, walk around art school just playing things, and lyrically as well, you know, bringing in like humor and kind of ways I sort of talk, but into lyric writing, where in past projects things got too cryptic, you know. I got like, how do I don't understand that, but I don't want to speak in a different language anymore. I want to speak in a language for the people that's honest and the language of the heart, basically.
I feel like that must be hard though when you're like so used to doing the same thing with the other projects and then you come and do this for yourself. Like how does that the other projects not bleed in to the work that you're creating now? Like do you feel like that's something that you kind of had to, every once in a while you had to check yourself, like okay, this is starting to sound like something else?
They always bleed in, and that's great, you know. Like, that's what I've always said to younger artists. They say this and that, like, anything with music, it's never ever a waste of time, and that's why it's important to keep the humility, like I was saying about being a student, because sometimes you'll write with a younger person, like my daughter. You know, she's 13, but when she'll sing a melody, she won't be trained. You know, so she'll sing a melody and it will sound like, you know, Beyonce in 2050, and I'll be like, what the hell was that? But she's just singing what is, you know, it's uncharted territory, and they want to discover. So yeah, it's never a waste working, you know, with anyone really. So all that stuff, and I think you naturally take what you want, you know.
Yeah.
Like there's so many great things I've learned from all these projects that you put it in your little arsenal, you know. You got mixing technique in this holster, you know, and top line writing in this one, and you know, the jacket of harmony, and you know, the pants of production.
Full blown outfit.
Yeah.
Now, as far as like your vocals go, like, do you feel like you've kind of stepped out of comfort zone? And if so, like, how did you step out of your comfort zone to try something different or to try something that you knew would be a challenge for you?
See, this is really like my comfort zone because it's low and and it's in my character, and so yeah, I think yeah, like the comfort zone, you know, on vocals, it should be the right zone, you know. You have to, it has to be with conviction, and yeah, so I think this was for this record, you know, that's the comfort zone. Where the next one I might be 3 octaves higher again, you know. Or like when Julie Cruz died the other day, I've been, you know, some reason writing all these, you know, big falsetto Brian Wilson kind of, you know, Twin Peaks at the beach kind of songs, you know. So who knows where I'll be led, where I'll be led next, you know, really.
What track would you say like challenged you the most on this album?
Um, there was a track, it was probably Get Out Now, that just took so long on the production, working out how much of each element. You know, it's yeah, how many layers to keep it beautiful, but not like there's too much to look at or too much to hear. So yeah, I spent so long on that, and yeah, yeah, just making sure it feels right without, you know, your ears getting confused. Yeah.
You're saying your vocals were your comfort level on this record. Would you say that? What would you say like the biggest challenge was though? Would you say like the writing was harder than the production, or because it sounds like the vocals just naturally happen?
Yeah, well, I think the mixing and the mastering is when I just sort of lost my mind a bit, you know, because I did it all myself. So, and I think in the being in the, you know, it's, I think my ears were, you know, just got as confused as my mind. They were, yeah. One time I thought my mic was broken, so I sent it back, got it repaired. You know, didn't sound right, so I bought another Telefunken 251. You know, and then I thought that was broken, sent it back. So yeah, it was a couple of months of, yeah, and then when it got repaired by Telefunken again, they said, this is the best mic we've heard in years, and so that was pretty, that was pretty strange, you know, a good 3 months of your ears, you know, hearing different things, which I've never really experienced before too much, but yeah.
What made you want to just focus on doing this all yourself and not bringing and because I'm sure there's plenty of producers that would want to work with you for this project, but like, why did you want to keep it like all solo entirely?
I haven't had a good track record with producers because I don't know, I think I'm so particular and I have so much of a stance on what I want, and even with mixing, I've worked with some of the biggest mixers in the world and I'm telling them, turn this up, turn that up, and I just end up, I do that a lot with designers as well. I end up, because I'm a graphic designer, I end up redesigning everything myself, and then I've paid them $5,000 and this guy, and it's like, so I guess I'm fed up of dealing with people, so I want to be, the only one to blame, really.
Did you find yourself blaming yourself during this process, aside from the mic situation?
Yeah, yeah, there was a few times, and I got it remastered a bunch of times, because, and it ended up being a 6-month process, because there was this frequency about 200 hertz, which, I don't know, I think it was like the Holy Spirit mixed with Nag Champa and red wine frequency or something, that it always gets sort of taken down or subdued, and I wanted that because to me it's the frequency of that stuff, but tape and analog, it's a bit fuzzy and does something. So yeah, so that was embarrassingly it was about 6 months mastering it. God. Oh.
But I mean, as long as you're happy with the end product, I feel like this end product was a masterpiece, regardless. With these different sounds and sonics that we kind of get on this record, going back to that initial question of like kind of recreating sounds on your own, like, did you find yourself doing that, like just from scratch and kind of using something that you've never used before, like to create some kind of sound or sonic that we hear on this record?
Yeah, like the stuff with the pedal steel was, I haven't gone that far, like running it through my 70s Eventide H3000 unit and just reversing it and then, reprocessing it, and then there's tons of those layers in there that just, there's sort of like just spirits underneath it just flowing around, and pitching the pedal steel double speed so it becomes a really fast. Yeah, that I haven't done a ton of that on many records. What else? Yeah, nothing too crazy, but it was all quite simple, and yeah. Yeah, no, like I was gonna say, there's like the vocals were pure, there's not an auto tune inside, which is good.
So when you do vocals like that, where it's literally just the vocal, like, did you find yourself doing that whole one take per song, or did you still do the same way as you did prior?
Yeah, just doing takes, which is great, because process before, like I was saying, I'm more a character singer opposed to, I could never go up against Ariana Grande in a sing contest, because I get take number 1 or it's take number 750. So I've got to get it at the top, when I feel the passion, to sing the lyric, and that was great. It's like, I'm like the musical fisherman, I'm out there and I've got to catch the take, or else it swims away and I won't get it to the next fishing trip or something. So it was good. Get it fast and close, and then move on, sort of thing. Yeah.
What kind of what kind of dictated the cadence that you were going to do with these songs? Was it the instrumentation? Was it the lyrics? Was it the vocals?
I think, like I was saying before, after a couple of years of records and just, I felt like I'm surrendered to it. I just want to sing a song, it to be light, yeah, and be like I'm just sitting next to you. Everyone else in the house is asleep, and I'm just singing your song, and that's always the time when I play on guitar. People go, "You should do a record like that," So it was good to just, do something that's as close as I can be to you, you know, without it
Yeah.
being a whisper.
Now that this album is out and, you know, shows are happening, tours are happening, do you see yourself like taking this on the road, or is this something that you just kind of want to keep to yourself as far as like performances go?
I do want to go on the road. It's just still working out how to navigate what's happening, you know. It's like, you know, you build a team and you go out and then the guitar tech, you know, gets sick and then it's all cancelled, and it's still trying to figure that out. Yeah, so yeah, but definitely it'd be a great record to play on the road, you know. Yeah.
Now, lastly, what would you say was like the favorite, like your most fondest moment during this process of making this album?
I love when it was finished and I was sitting out at the Centric Farm and it just, you know, the song would be going down and I'd just have it playing, you know, and I knew that it was done. You know, I think that's always feels good when you feel that the work is wholesome and complete. You know, it's always I don't know, midway through anything, I guess like a painter or whatever, you kind of, you don't know what's going to happen and you hope for the best, but yeah, so that was a good moment.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for creating this record. It's nice to get to hear you in a different kind of sound, a different kind of style.
Thank you.
And I'm sure your fans are definitely enjoying it as well. So thank you again for taking the time to do this. You guys be sure to check out the new album, Listen to the Water. It's out now. And thanks for watching here on Front Row Live.